So our first speaker will be Miss Elizabeth Solomon, who, as I told you, was our adjunct lecturer this year for the clinic course, International Human Rights Clinic course. She's actually a certified mediator, a member of the Mediation Board of Trinidad and Tobago. She's a journalist and the executive director of the Dispute Resolution Center. She volunteers as the executive director of the Caribbean Center for Human Rights and was recently appointed in Trinidad and Tobago representative of the Commonwealth Network of Women Mediators. She holds an LLB and a degree in journalism, and she has qualifications in human rights and international relations. She spent a lot of time in Europe, in the Netherlands, 3 years as a senior political affairs officer in the Department of Political Affairs at the UN headquarters in New York, before she took up her post as deputy coordinator of the good offices in Cyprus, where she was a member of the UN mediation team. I give you Ms. Solomon.
Hello, everyone. I am very, very pleased to be standing here as the culmination of a semester of very hard work with an extremely talented group of students. I have to admit I've become quite jaded and frankly underwhelmed by occasions that provide platforms for talk without holding participants to account for lack of action. In this country, we are quick to comment, even quicker to criticize, but slow to take action towards change, and even slower on implementation. Not to mention the lack of stick-to-itiveness to see an initiative through to a successful conclusion, which is, of course, positive change. This is different. The International Human Rights Clinic has been doing solid work in advocacy and influencing change through learning and expansion of thought and practice. So what you are being part of now is a widening of that circle of influence. So welcome to that circle of influence. It comes with a price. You need to act. I would like to say a few words today on human rights and interconnectedness, and then to give you a little insight into the work that we've been doing at the clinic this semester. And then the students, of course, will take it from there. Obviously, when we speak of an interconnected world in the context of refugees, we're referring to the huge numbers of people on the move, often perilously, from their home countries across borders to other countries, seeking refuge, and all the legal, political, and survival complexities that go along with that. But we're also referring to the interconnectedness of the human rights that refugees are denied or struggle to realize. Human rights violations are a major factor in causing the flight of refugees, as well as an obstacle to their safe and voluntary return home. Safeguarding human rights in countries of origin is therefore critical, both for the prevention and for the solution of what we call the refugee problem. In countries of asylum, the treatment of refugees must be grounded in the respect for human rights, and in particular, the universal, indivisible, inalienable, and interdependent nature of human rights, which challenges us to an equal emphasis on protection of their freedoms from unwarranted incarceration, for example, as on promotion of their right to a full realization of their potential as human beings, through things like access to health care and an education. World Refugee Day honors the strength and courage of refugees, people who have had to flee their homes because of conflict or natural disaster. Refugees are vulnerable and in need, and are often misunderstood and maligned, and often have very little or nothing of their possessions, not even the documents to prove their identities or their achievements. They suffer from lack of housing, hunger, trauma, despair, health problems compounded by no access to care, violence, abuse, and exploitation by their fellow human beings. To reiterate the words of the UN Secretary General, their story is one of resilience, perseverance, and courage. Ours must be of solidarity, compassion, and action. It is with this interconnectedness of human rights in mind that we approach the International Human Rights Clinic on Refugees. The class explored the issues of refugees from various angles. Legal, of course, but also the political motivation or challenges impacting on the treatment of refugees, cultural issues resulting in discrimination, and unequal access to protection and services, or unfair policies, or glaring omissions in the legislation creating opportunities for abuse. They met with people working on the issue at a number of levels, and then they conducted their own interviews. They were asked to work on 3 big projects and to research individual papers related to the group projects. In addition, they kept journals to keep them on track and to track their own progression of learning. And I would like to read you 2 excerpts from those journals. Forgive me, but I won't name who were the authors of these excerpts, but I think you will know. So the first excerpt. The reason I'm reading this to you is because I think that they have a lot to say, and they could help guide the discussions here today. Most importantly, it will shine a light on the wisdom of youth and the benefits of deep analysis of this problem. So first excerpt. Generally, the experience is becoming exciting. Initially, excessive ambiguity in the direction where the project would take us, proving to be a source of significant frustration. I am becoming enlightened, though, as to the deficiency in the Immigration Act, and particularly how it stifles our international obligations for refugee protection. This highlights the great difficulty that presents itself as a gap between international law and domestic law reality. Some say this is a futility of international law. I see it as a cracked open door for states to be held accountable in their actions, a notion that chips away at archaic notions of absolute state sovereignty. And another journal entry. This is under personal reflections. This week of research has undoubtedly altered my perspectives on education and refugees' access. Firstly, prior to this paper, I was led to believe that refugee children had no rights to education, and the forced reliance on the draft policy, because of the forced reliance on the draft policy. However, further research has revealed that the complementary effect of the Education Act and the Equal Opportunities Act confer the right to education to citizens and refugees alike. Therefore, legislation, though piecemeal and scattered, protects the rights of refugee children. As such, mere passage of legislation enshrining the rights is unlikely to be a panacea if the approach is not refined, restructured, and rethought. While my LLB has cultivated a love and proclivity towards academic research, this paper has made me keenly aware that while I value human rights, I am plagued by an internal battle between the inherent equality of all and their inherent inequalities. Thus, until I am able to resolve my internal conflict, my activism will be outside the realm of human rights law. The facade of international human rights' direct ability to uplift the marginalized and give effect to persons' inherent dignity is incompatible with my futile search for a truth that is settled and definite in an ever-changing world. This paper has taught me the value of human rights and the importance of activism, but has also revealed the limitations where theoretical proclamations of rights fall short of realization of those rights. I find myself questioning and reassessing old convictions and developing new convictions. I read that really to demonstrate the depth of learning, I think, that took place in the manner in which we've chosen to teach human rights. I want to very quickly just give you the topics of the three groups, and I beg your indulgence to allow the students to stand so that you can see those who are in the audience before you're introduced to the three who are going to represent the groups. So the three topics were: what are the specific economic, social, and cultural rights that are being discriminated against the citizens of Cuba and Venezuela? The second topic, a research paper on complementary protection systems focused on human rights and migration and how they can work in the legislative framework of Trinidad and Tobago. And finally, the impact of the lack of educational access for refugee children on the realization of other rights under the Convention on the Rights of the Child. Very quickly, please stand, members of that class, the whole class. There's 1, 2, there were 15. They deserve a round of applause. They worked really hard. Thank you.